What is going on, guys? We are back in the shop. Right now we have the cab up in the air. We have the mounts to cut loose. So I've been doing some measuring, and I can actually cut this rear Dodge cab mount off flush with I need to cut about a 1/4 inch off the back side here, which is going to be perfect with our plasma cutter. Cut off a 1/4 inch on the back side, and I can actually weld it right here. You can see where our hole is. I can weld it right there and use it as our front cab mount, and then we will probably use either this already factory cross member here. We'll cut the rivets here, cut those 2 rivets, and then we'll slide this thing back about 3 inches, and then we'll use that to mount the Chevy cab, kind of like how they did it from the factory. They just mounted it on a crossbar. So we're gonna jump right in, and we're gonna start cutting these rear cab mount flanges off. Righty, so we've got the bracket all cleaned up. I'm gonna go ahead and whack the other front bracket off. We'll get it knocked off. We'll weld this one into its place. As you can see, that's gonna line up almost perfect with our hole. So we'll get that whacked off, we'll get the frame ground down, get it prepped for welding. We'll weld this one on, and then we'll just duplicate what we did on the other side. I won't make you guys watch me do that twice. Alrighty guys, so this part still, you know, is what it is right now. Right now we're just worried about getting the front mount done. As you can see, I've whacked the front cab mount off. We cleaned it up with the grinder. So we're ready to get the front mounts, you know, get them pretty close, and then we'll weld them both on. That way the cab will sit down and we can start, once we get the front ones mounted, then we'll start moving that rear cross member and get the rear ones mounted. Alrighty guys, it's a few days later. We had some issues. We didn't have any oxyacetylene, so we just got a few new bottles. And now we're going to be cutting the top of these cab mount bolts off. They're a square nut inside the floor, so we have to basically we had to cut a hole in the floor, and there's 2 tabs that hold that square nut. So we're going to be cutting the 2 tabs off, getting those bolts out, getting our new bolts dropped in, and bolting on our cab mounts to the cab. Then we'll rest the cab over the frame, and we will weld them on. So it's very dark in there. Don't mind my messy workbench. Alright. So, I don't know if you can see that or not. Yeah, the square nuts have a tab right there on each side that we have to cut off to get the bolt out. So we're gonna whack those off real quick, and then we'll get back with you. Alright, so this is what they look like, the square nuts inside the floor. They've got 2 tabs, one that holds it on the top, one that holds it on the bottom, and it sits in there and it's under the floor. So if you ever have to replace a cab mount, you basically have to cut into the floor, cut those tabs off, and then lift this back out, and then you can just replace it with a normal bolt and washer. Alrighty guys, so here's what it looks like. That is the Dodge rear cross member, or cab mount for the front on the Chevy. We've got it washered up a little bit here because we don't have the right size bolts at the moment. We're going to tack that in place. Once we tack that in place, we'll unbolt the cab on the front. We'll weld them solid to the frame. And we've already spent our time measuring out everything on the cab to make sure it is perfectly square and straight and level. So we're going to jump right in, we're going to tack that up, and then we're going to unbolt the cab, hopefully for the last time. Alrighty guys, so we are fully welded up all the way around. Ready to go on both sides. I don't know if you can see that or not. So, all we have to do is build a new cross member to go over the tank to bolt up the rear, and we will be ready to rock and roll. Alrighty, so we're back in the shop. Sorry for the noise. We've got the new heater running. Alicia's lounging it up. But we're about to tackle the rear mount. So, what we're going to do is we're going to torch off these huck bolts. And I actually bought square tubing to make a mount, but we're not going to do that. We're actually going to do my original idea and whack these huck bolts off, scoot this back, and we'll weld it solid to the frame, and then use factory Dodge cab mount in its spot. Go right about there. Like that. So, we're gonna torch those off real quick, and we'll get back with you. So we got the cross member hanging here, just loosely mounted. We're grinding underneath it to get ready to tag it onto the frame. So the cross member, the bushings and everything are ready to go. I'm going to put the smaller bolts that I got for this thing in, and then we will be dropping it down, tagging it in place, lifting the cab up, and welding all the way around, and then we'll be good to go. Alright, so we finished up the rear cross member. The owner came by and he slapped the welds on, and cab is firmly mounted. So that's gonna do it for today. We'll catch you later.